Legal Peppersoup, episode number 4, recorded on the 3rd of November 2016. The music is provided by Lambo de Virus, and this episode is sponsored by Peppersoup Clothing and OJN Solicitors. Welcome to OJN's Legal Peppersoup Podcast. We put the Peppersoup in the podcast because in each episode we dish up and serve you extra hot legal topics for your consideration and consumption. Our aim is to dissect the issues, get straight to the point, and provide you with useful legal information and advice.
It's very crystal clear like the biblical teke mene you fasting.
We like to keep it simple. I am your host, Obi Wakeji, Principal Solicitor of OJN Solicitors based in Enfield Town, Greater London in England. The hot topic of today's show is Brexit. Yes, Brexit again. And the bombshell news that the government has been defeated in the High Court in relation to how it will trigger Article 50. Now, we're going to discuss the legal implications of this High Court action, and also we'll discuss what the possible effects are on EA nationals and their family members. We have discussed this before in our very first episode when Brexit took place. And once again, in the studio, I have with me today Lawrence Jegede, who was the guest at that very first episode. He's a qualified solicitor, specializes in immigration, litigation, and employment. Lawrence, thank you very much indeed for coming again on the show today.
Yeah, thank you for having me on the show again.
Now, what are your feelings today in relation to what has happened?
My feelings is possibly the same as everybody else's feeling. We were expecting this judgment today. I think the court gave some indication yesterday or 2 days ago that the judgment in that Brexit challenge will come today. Yes, some people might be expecting this, but I think a lot of people were not really expecting the government to be defeated. Now, just like you said, we are now moving into completely uncharted constitutional territory here. The effect of that judgment is Parliament must have debate and a vote on how and when or whether the government should trigger Article 50. So we now have some possibilities. Nobody really knows what's going to happen at this stage. But of course, the government has indicated that they will definitely appeal. And in fact, the High Court has given a certificate to bypass Court of Appeal. So that case will continue to the Supreme Court.
I think I read somewhere today that there's actually a date. I heard it's probably going to be on the 7th of December. And it's going to be bypassed directly to the Supreme Court. Now, this is serious business, isn't it?
It is serious. The decision is a monumental, very serious decision of general public importance. We need to understand that we haven't been through something like this before. The synonym that I have for this is this. It's like we have a general election or a referendum, for example, the Scottish referendum. But then the court or some people are saying that the Parliament must have a vote or a debate on how the outcome of such elections or referendum should be implemented. So it is very strange what is going on there. And I think that it is right for the highest court in the land to have a say on it. And another reason for that is there was a similar case in Northern Ireland about whether the Parliament should have a vote on activating Article 50 of the EC Treaty. And very surprisingly, or not surprisingly for some people, there was a different decision in the High Court of the Northern Ireland. So we now have two separate court decisions on the same matter. So when we have a situation like this, it is very important for the highest court in the land to make the final decision on the matter.
Well, the way I looked at it was, first of all, before the Brexit vote happened, everybody thought and expected that Britain would vote to remain. And then what happened on June 23rd is beyond people's expectations. The British people voted Brexit, that is to leave. And now, obviously, we did know that there was a High Court challenge, but nobody actually took it seriously. Well, I certainly did it. I believe, and I think many people did believe, that even if this challenge took place, it was merely academic and the courts would rubber stamp it. But, well, lo and behold, we're in, as I say, completely uncharted waters. Now, how will this affect European nationals at the moment?
At the moment,
yes,
nothing affects European nationals and their family member in the country. Going back to the first episode of this program, or even the second episode of this program, it was made clear that the rights, the benefits that are enjoyed by EEA nationals and their family members, they continue until the UK finally leaves the European Union. Now, that process is not going to start until the government activates Article 50 of the EC Treaty. All process will possibly last for at least 2 years. So until that process complete, EU nationals and a family member, they continue to have the same rights that they've always had, that is the right to live and work in the United Kingdom. So this decision does not really affect anybody at the moment.
Well, it could affect.
That's right.
I would think it could make an effect on the basis that this whole Article 50 of Brexit might be scuppered and the whole thing falls apart. That's a possible.
Well, it is a possibility. You are correct. At the moment, again, as I said, nothing changes, but it could affect things in the future. And what I mean by that is, if this decision stands, if it is confirmed by the Supreme Court, then that means the Parliament must have a debate and a vote on the process for activating Article 50 of the EC Treaty. Now, what if the Parliament votes against activating Article 50 of the EC Treaty? What's going to happen? Does that mean that the referendum was just a waste? Does that mean that the will of the people will be abandoned? Does that mean that the UK will no longer come out of the European Union? That is very risky. So we are moving into a completely uncharted territory that could bring about some constitutional crisis.
All right, I see. Now, what I understand the government's argument is, and somehow it does make sense, the government are saying, look, it's the Commons that gave the people the right to vote in this referendum, and the people voted for Brexit. So therefore, the government's argument will be, well, Parliament has already had a say in this because the Commons gave the people the vote, and therefore the Commons are the Parliament, and therefore on that basis, that whole point of the Parliament having to have a say in Brexit has been fulfilled.
Yes, I have to agree with you on that point, but of course this is law. There are always different opinions and views on laws and legal matters, but I think I gave a similar analogy earlier. If you have a referendum, if you have, for example, a general election, then you have an outcome of the general election. You don't go to the Parliament and say, Parliament, can we have a debate? Can we have a vote on how to implement the outcome of this general election or this referendum? So I don't really understand why the Brexit referendum should be different. And basically that is the argument for the government. The Parliament has already had a say on whether there should be a referendum. That has been done. And we must also remember that once Article 50 is being triggered by the government, there will be a period of negotiations. That will be exit treaty between the UK and the EU. Of course, Parliament will at that stage have the right to scrutinize the terms of the treaty. We have the right to debate and to have a vote on the treaty. And I think that is the right time for the Parliament to get involved in this exit process.
All right, so what you're saying is that it's not a case where Theresa May will just trigger Article 50 and start acting and making agreements without the involvement of Parliament.
That is right. Once the government triggers Article 50, the Parliament will be carried along. Definitely. You will have select committees, you will have standing committees that will be scrutinizing what the government is doing, the types, the kinds of negotiations that are going on, the types of terms that want to be included in any treaty. And of course, before any treaty is signed, ratified by the United Kingdom, the Parliament must have a debate and a vote on it. And that is what the government is saying. So instead of having the parliamentary debate on how to trigger or when or whether to trigger Article 50, why don't we have that debate on the terms for the treaty for the actual exit from the European Union? That is the government's position.
All right, so as I take it, just to summarize, what we're saying is, yes, the government have been defeated today in relation to how they'll trigger Article 50, but this is going to be heard by the Supreme Court, I believe, in December of this year. So all this might be a whole hoo-ha about nothing.
That's correct.
But in between that, European nationals and their family members, nothing changes.
Nothing changes.
Everything still remains the
Everything
same.
remains the same.
And we just have to sit back and watch this whole drama unfold.
That's correct. And of course, we've talked about one possible outcome. The second or the other possible outcome is also that the Supreme Court will overturn the decision of the High Court, saying that the government alone on its own can just trigger Article 50 without the involvement of the Parliament, then that means the whole exit process will continue. But going back to the original or the initial advice that we've already given, nothing affects any EA nationals or their family members until the final stage of the exit.
Okay, brilliant. Thank you very, very much, Lawrence, for coming to the studio at such short notice. We will keep you informed. For those who are listening, we will keep you informed as this matter unfolds. We will have further programs on this particular topic. So that's it from the Legal Peppersoup podcast. Thank you all for listening, because without you, the listener, there is no podcast. Please drop us a comment to let us know if you like the show, what we could do to improve, or what you would like us to discuss in future episodes. You can find us on Facebook, search Legal Peppersoup, on Twitter @Legal Peppersoup, or visit our website /blog legalpeppersoup.com. If you would like specific legal advice on any matters discussed on this show or in general, please call 0203 232 2135 or 07587 132 604, quoting Legal Peppersoup. I am Obi Wakeji signing out, and remember, ignorance of the law is no excuse.